For being late. Hello everyone. Let's see. Okay, is the game visible? Hello. Okay, just making sure everyone's in the chat before we start. Oh, hello. Okay. That ought to be enough people to start off with. Anyone else who misses the beginning of it can look at the VOD later. Oh, hello. So many colors of people here. Now, let's make a linear platformer stage, shall we? How about we do one at night? Because I don't think I've made a stage on stream yet that's with this level theme in particular yet. So, apply the water height adjuster. It's like I do want some water, but not that much. I'd like to be able to show off the parallaxing background here. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, this is about right. I need to adjust the parallax math for that background. Yeah, that's basically how the music works. When you change the background, you change the music. At least for now. Maybe when we have more variations in the soundtrack, I will allow that again. Oh, thank you. I spent 2 weeks on the background. Like, particularly on the day version of the stage, and then I made the night variant. Yeah. Yeah, let's close that real quick so you can get a better look at the background itself. Pixie did point out that the trees don't exactly grow in those directions unless there's like extreme erosion or, you know, something devastating happening to that area. So, but given the extreme slope of this background, I guess it's all right. One of those little things I'll have to tweak later. Oh, hello. So yeah, that's the background. We'll go back to the night variant. And, oh yeah, we'll pull out some stage stuff here. Okay, now we're going to make a linear platformer stage, and it's pretty simple to set up in this engine. There's no like header information you have to worry about. All you need to do is place these 10 targets throughout the stage. And they're called 10 targets here as well. Simply placing these in your stage makes it so that it becomes a linear platformer stage. The moment you hit a brass target, you'll win. So these have to be placed at the end of the stage, preferably. Although if you're crazy, you could have like a stage with 3 major branching paths and have a brass target at the end of any of those branches, and then the player gets the win condition. And the 10 targets act as checkpoints. So you hit the target, you spawn from there when you die. I'm hoping that's at least intuitive enough for most people, but we'll see what happens when we release the game. You just never know what people will find intuitive or not when they pick it up. What might make sense to me doesn't make any sense to anyone else. Like, my loop system did throw some people off at first until I made some fixes to that. So, yeah. Oh yeah, onto making a stage itself. I guess I'll start, like, yeah, we can have a grid here too. Let's start working with the grid. And here we go. Let's see. do I want down there? That's something I don't think I can really rectify in Shang Architect. Because, like, how do you really set a linear path for a level? And because, like, yeah, if you hit a checkpoint at an earlier point in the level after hitting a later checkpoint, I really don't know how to do that, because people can make levels in any direction, and even in Freedom Planet 1, you're gonna see levels that go in just about every direction, which is great because, like, you weren't constantly holding right the entire time. You're going left, right, up and down, and sometimes just straight up for a large column before returning to horizontal platforming. That's one of the things I like about the game. So it's just kind of hard to figure out how to do that without some kind of some path following systems, like what racing games use for their AIs. Like, they just have points along each sector of a track that the AI's path system just looks for and goes towards if it can. Like, if there's any obstacles in the way, you know, it complicates things, and the AI has to be intelligent enough to work around that. But in the context of a linear platformer stage for Shang the Architect, that might be a level of convolution most people would enjoy. Like, it's already going to be hard enough to make stages for this game. I feel, anyway. Well, I do not have the abstract thinking skills to really rectify that. Again, like, it's not like Mario Maker where you're guaranteed, for the most part, to be pushing the players, like, to the left or to the right or auto-scrolling. Like, the flow of stages in Freedom Planet, or whichever direction the developer wanted the player to go in. So how do you define that? The only other way I could think of that would be to, like, have the 10 targets have numbers attached to them. That might be the only way, but I don't have an object properties overlay for objects yet. So, like, one thing you can do with tiles right now is if you select it, you've got properties you can adjust. Flat surface and decorator tiles have alpha levels that you can modify. And then you can also modify the direction of tiles that are decorations only. You can flip and mirror them any way you like. And the game's boxes will recognize the flip. I don't have this sort of menu system for objects yet. And once I do, like, we're going to have object flags for each object that you can always change, which will give you properties that you can manipulate. At that point, we could probably have a number system for 10 targets. So, like, okay, this is target number 1. You break that, all the targets before that ought to destroy themselves, so they can't be backtracked to in the first place. But for now, this is what we have. I'll have to include that in the milestone list for 1.0 because that might honestly be a useful feature. Yeah, numbering might be the only way to do it. There's no way to do it in a way that's completely brainless for the player. That's going to involve some setup, which I think will be fine because making a level is still simpler than building the engine in the first place, so we'll just have to see. Also, I'm gonna put this below the camera so the player can't die down there. Let's get started on the layout of the arena, shall we? Well, the linear platformer stage, what's wrong with me? So... Ah. So. Okay. Zoom in a bit. Wait, no, we're trying to transition away from that. Yeah, there we go. I need to replace this particular wood block with a horizontal one because we don't really have enough horizontal blocks in this build. And it'd be as simple as just changing the asset file, not any of the other properties. Also, I'm going to turn the grid off. It's distracting me. I've just always felt that way about grids. Nothing against them. Oh. Yeah, that's for the hole. Yeah, so this is somewhat crudely connecting to this platform. Then we can start cohesively adding more types of tiles. So it doesn't look like they're all just kind of... You know, that doesn't look that bad, no. Hang bar types. Yeah, for stages, like, it's important to have variation, that's all. See, I just didn't change the ladders much. Oh yeah, I'm gonna see if I can do something stupid real quick. Oh, no. In the launcher state, it doesn't work. Can't latch onto the ladder that way. So... But we can... No, that would just confuse the players to have these tiles used as decorators behind this. Not without putting some shading tiles over this. And I don't think I have 24 pixel tall shading tiles in Shang Architect yet. Okay. I want this part of the stage to feel a little open at first before we start narrowing into certain paths. So I'm going to leave the beginning somewhat open, but maybe add some decorations here. Okay, sorry about the parallaxing math there. It's not quite perfect yet. Okay, so yeah, it's scene 4, so it's not drawing over the there we go. Got a little bench. One of these days I'll program the ability to sit on them, I swear. I really do. It's just one of those things that have fallen on the priority list, that's all. Would like this to draw over that. There we go. Then, okay, let's go back to manual mode. Then can have ceiling above here. Oh, there we go, and it's still respecting the 8x8 grid, that's nice. I think I'll fill this with dirt tiles. Then this here. Go back to just placing these for a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I will place these like, yeah, behind there. Okay. Oh, that's right, we also need the player spawner. Should I? No, I'm not gonna, well, You know, there's an idea. We could make a stage that's exclusive to Carol. How about that? Here we go. Now only Carol will spawn here, no matter what character the player selects. It's very important. Yeah, I could do that. I just wasn't thinking of it, honestly. That's just how In Blast put them together on his level, and I didn't think of it. Could lay these over each other. Yeah, that does look more cohesive. Oh, there. A little more tile load, but it looks fine. That's the important thing. I need to figure out what to name this stage. I'll just call it Shang Lake for now. Okay. Reach the target. Really? There we go. Also, I'd like that tree to be above that layer, so... Oops. Here we go. Oh yeah, we do have bombs. Don't worry about that. You can't make them explode in editor mode for memory leaking reasons, like... but... yeah, we just don't want a lot of memory accumulation in editor mode. But yeah, you can place them, they can set each other off. And yeah, they used to be able to delete ladders when they exploded. It was pretty hilarious. Oh yeah, you could probably make an entire level that's just all bomb flowers. So, and, yeah, in fact, why don't we, I always want to give Carol players, like, some way to access the bike early if they want it, ahead of where I would normally place that. Oh, we're in manual mode, that's why it didn't work. There we go. No, I want this tile, if I can. Alright, I'm gonna try something stupid. Oh, that doesn't look good at all. No, let's not do that. Oh, picked the wrong one. So there we go. Copy this. And there. Something that should easily be within view. Well, no, not really. But if the player looks down, they can find it. So I could encourage the player to go down there by placing gems. Because who isn't greedy enough to collect a few of those? Who isn't? Oh, whoops, we're on the 4x4 grid. There we go. Also, you may notice a new feature. There is like an object counter on the HUD for each item that you're placing. And this is basically to help encourage the player to make levels that are optimal. Let's see. Oh, well, how did that happen? Anyway, so like, pretty much objects, no matter what game engine you're working with, if you have too many of them on screen at once, it will cause pretty much any game engine to slow down. So in order to help players learn how to mitigate that, I've added an object counter. So like anything that needs an object to become any sort of entity, like there's a counter, it won't stop you from placing as many as you want, but like after you reach a certain number of items, it will start to warn you that you placed too many in one particular area. So like, as you can see, let's just spam a button. See, it's warning you now. If you place more than 32 petal flowers within the range of the camera, that's probably going to cause lag on low-end computers, so it's to help encourage the player to not overdo certain item placements. And you'll notice that, like, with those gems that I placed down there, the counter goes down when you're outside of the range of the camera. At least it should. I'm trying to remember if... Okay, I was testing this earlier and it was just fine. Oh my god. I wonder if there's some more instance activation issues again. Oh yeah, I think like in editor mode there are certain items that are always active, so never mind. But basically when these things get out of the range of the camera, like the counter will go down because they're no longer within the inactivation region of the camera. Again, just encouraging players to not overdo it when placing objects that could slow down the engine on slower computers. You don't really want that. Yeah, some people tend to overdo it with pickups, so it's like, not to tell them they can't, just to maybe help show them a way to make levels that are more optimal. Yeah, that could lead to easy levels as well if you spam petals everywhere. Now granted, there can't really be like a... a counter for these types of tiles, because like when the player interacts with this tile and hits it, like it's going to explode into petal flowers, and I can't really easily control how many of those are within range of the camera. But naturally, like if you placed several of these and blew them up, like the game will slow down on a slower computer. On the computer that I'm playing the game from right now, that's not an issue, but on my laptop it would be. Yeah, you'll notice that, like, in Freedom Planet 1, there's never more than 2 of these on screen at once, and they're very sparsely placed. So, like, you know, before a major boss fight, you'll find 2 of these hidden somewhere that you can reach, and that's it. And maybe just 1 for minor bosses. Like, they're not placed very often. So, okay. I think I've dwelled enough on the beginning of the stage. While we're at it, why not just... I think crates down here would be maybe a little more fun for the player to break than just collecting gems in this area. There we go. Yeah, there are entire levels that don't have them. Yeah. And mostly I'm just like placing these gems right here so that Carol players can like immediately charge up their stamina bar. Like in Shang the Architect, like Carol's stamina meter does recharge faster than it does in Freedom Planet. You'll notice that the recharge rate is on par with Lilac's, which is like, I think, 0.40 per frame instead of like 0.2 like it is in Freedom Planet 1. I felt like that would be too much of a drag for players of Carol. Especially like in Shang the Architect's context, at least, because people might place a lot more enemies than Freedom Planet 1 ever had, so players need to recover as quickly as possible. The recharge rate was fine for Freedom Planet 1, but for Shang the Architect it could pose issues for people like having enemy dense stages, so yeah, the recharge rate is faster to reflect that. We'll have to see what happens when people get their hands on the game. So yeah, having these here will let the player recharge that faster before they start getting heavier into attacking enemies. Yeah, that was an exceptional stage though. Final Dreadnought 2, or 1 rather, did have a lot of enemies, but you know, we're invading a alien ship, so of course all hands are on deck trying to kill you. So story-wise that was necessary, but for most contexts with like level building, it's just a bit much. So, oh yeah, let's try to figure out what to do about the levels layout now, instead of just talking about what we can do. Oh, that's right, we do have spikes. If I were feeling like a jerk, I could put some underneath here, but the player wouldn't be able to see that, so that would be unfair. Don't do things to players that they can't see coming. It's just, it can be a realistic thing, but it won't be a fun thing to do. Oh, should I limit vertical movement that much in the beginning? Well, no, it's not really an issue. Carol can't even jump that high. Oh my god, Carol can still do that. Oh, that's on scene 1. It's no wonder Carol went right through it. Okay, so can't have that now. These need to be solid tiles. Well, it's just like, you know, sometimes you need to use flat tiles as scenery, so it's not super strict about where you place them, except on the slope layer and item layer. Like, the game would crash because it's trying to look for slope array data that doesn't exist for tiles that don't have any. Yeah, that's true. Like, she could jump up here. In fact, we could take advantage of that a little bit. Like, if players do go up here, then we could place something a little special for them up here. But what exactly would be special? Well, shields are like an easy and useful pickup. But this needs to be based on the gimmicks they're going to face up ahead. So like, what would be like the most convenient shield to have? I'm thinking maybe like yeah, maybe the can't go wrong with the wood shield. If we need to change it later, we can. It's not a big deal. Now let's place a decorator over it. There's also limiters for decorators, obviously. Because like these have an additive blending effect, so it's more expensive on the GPU to draw these sprites. So if you had like 20 of them here, it would start to slow down a laptop in particular. Let's see, so... Well, that is odd. Okay, I'm gonna save the stage real quick just to see if instance activation is working just fine. Yeah, I just called it Shang Lake, so... Here we go. Then open up debug mode. Okay, instance activation, deactivation stopped working for some reason. I don't know why it was working earlier. That is not good. What did I do this time? So, I'm gonna look at the code real quick. See what's going on here. Right. Big region. Okay. Let's see. So what is going on here? Okay. I think what I might need to do is like restart the engine just to see if if the write delay variable was triggered incorrectly. Let's see if that fixed it. So, open Shang Lake. This is so embarrassing. Now what? Yeah, everything. Okay, it's working now. Yeah, there was probably... I'm guessing the write delay was staying active after I'd click save for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, yeah, this is what the object counter should be doing. So as soon as you get out of range of the camera, like it's only showing you how many gems you should have in view at a time. That's all it does. Okay, let's get back to the stage. That was a weird problem. Let's see. Okay, so let's try to make the geometry of the stage a little more interesting instead of just like flat tiles everywhere. You know, that's a fair question. Because, like, you can't complete a stage without any tiles in place. So, yeah. I just hadn't thought of it yet. Like, I still need to place an extended counter for silver targets. Like, if you place more than 15 of them in a stage. I just haven't set that up yet. So... Alright, so... Yeah, you managed to break the counter, and that's when I was like, oh yeah, people might want to break that limit, because they can. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'll see you later. So, where do we start? Oh, oops. Cannot wait to figure out how to do an undo button. One of these days. In that case, I'm not going to place the water height a bit lower. Now, this is fine. The player can get their feet wet if they want. Oh, that's right, I keep forgetting the fact that I have other tiles I can use besides just this one. Let's do that. Got two different types of downward slopes. And their sprites don't connect cleanly. I need to fix that later. Oops. That's not good. Those tiles are probably 2 years old, so it's been a long time since I've seen any of those. Yeah. I think I'll use these. They're much bigger and easier to place and more cohesive. I haven't used these on stream yet, so it's pretty fun. Like, Trap Hideout had a really good tile set. I think. Now, what can we do to make this area interesting? I feel like enemies tend to have like a great influence on the direction and flow of a stage. So like, no matter what layout you come up with, the enemies are going to have an influence in it. Particularly in a combat-heavy game like Freedom Planet. So, yeah, let's get started with some enemy placements. Okay, put you down, little fella. Oh yeah, that's right. He still isn't looking for slopes on the edges of tiles, so he's not going to go. Lots of little things I have to consider with the enemies when placing them. You know, there's one thing about Mega Man classic levels that really stood out to me from like an early age, is the fact that they slowly introduce you to enemies as you come along. Later on, by putting them in an environment that's safe enough to interact with them in. So like, they're not surrounded by death pits, they're not, they don't have spike walls around them or anything. They're just in a nice flat environment where you can toy around with them and figure out how to kill them. Then they start layering on the complexity as you go on. Okay. You'll notice that the bullfrag has gotten a few fixes since the last update. Oh my god, that broke again, somehow. It was supposed to be dropping. Oh, that's right, I'm in editor mode, so it isn't deleting its base tile. Okay, that's not an issue for now. I'll just have to tell it not to drop those gems in editor mode. Okay. So, yeah, anyway, we'll start the stage off with the bullfrag. It's like he's not really in a position where he can do a lot of harm to you. And if you have the bike, you can just like bypass him if you're clever enough. And if you know how to play as Carol anyway, you can just kind of go around him. I forgot to change his depth after he dies. I'll have to fix that. Like, this isn't a problem in player mode, because, like, you know, the enemy instance is deleted at that point, but all of his variables are getting reset in editor mode. So, like, instead of him deleting himself and spawning another copy, which is, you know, piling on more stuff in memory, he's just, like, restarting all of his variables, going back to his spawn point, and just not worrying about that. So, yeah, there's some variables that are not being reset correctly yet. But in player mode, he still works as intended, so for the purposes of this stream, it's not the end of the world. Just embarrassing I didn't find that beforehand. So we'll introduce the bullfrag for the beginning of the stage. And yeah, that's right, since this is a Carol stage, you can easily go all the way up the wall. So, let's start placing some more wall tiles down. And try to make the geometry of it a little interesting along the way. So it's not just like, oh, we have a flat wall. No, it's just, oh, there we go. Oh, that's why. Well, it's just that I haven't had the time to test that, remember? Like, I do have a full-time job outside of this game. So... go... I just like to make walls more interesting to look at when you find them. So Carol won't be able to do a whole lot with that. So go to manual mode. Got a problem? Just fill it in with dirt. Every time. It always works. Let's see. Here we go. Place that. Go back to manual mode. Place these here. There we are. A dirt cheap solution. I agree, apps. Alright, so... auto tile. Let's see. Okay, that's why I wasn't picking that one. And because this is cosmetic anyway, I'll there we go. And for the enterprising Carol player, why not put something up here as well? There we go. Yeah, let's use some thicker tiles for that. Oh, there we go. These are the 32X variants of those tiles. So, put something nice up there. Now, assuming somebody's a complete beginner and got beat the crap out of by that, I guess we could place one of these here and something else useful. Don't want to put a shield there. We've already got one power up for them to find. That's just, you know, if they got beat up and need a health recovery. It's like the thing is about this fan game, because of the nature of it being free, there's a lot of people who are going to play it who've never really played Freedom Planet before. So some of these enemies are going to catch them by surprise because they've never been able to encounter them before, because they don't own the game, and they don't know what the characters are going to be capable of either. So at least when I make my own stages, I try to take that into account. Like, what would somebody with completely fresh eyes think of the level? You can't let that be a detriment to designing levels that would engage somebody who's very, very steeped in our little Freedom Planet culture, but at the same time, it's at least make the beginning a little bit easier for a beginner to acclimate to. Yeah, I'm not going to place any pickups inside an area you can't get them. Okay. That ought to be a fair start to the beginning. I'll pretty it up a bit and continue on. So, oh, yeah, decoration tiles are here, silly me. Zoom in quite a bit so we can easier time placing these things. There we go. As I said in a previous stream, I always want to give the player a sense of direction in the stage. So like, if the parallax of the background is like the only indication of how far they've gone, then a level like that's not nearly enough to go on. You need to be able to orient yourself in a two-dimensional environment. So decorations do help give you a sense of where you are in a stage, no matter how big a particular sector is. Because like, some people complain that Freedom Planet does suffer from screen crunch, so this can be especially helpful when designing levels for it. The player will have a much better idea of where they are. Just checking something. Yeah, it's still possible for Carol to jump higher from a rolling position. That should not be possible. Let's see. Alright. Yeah, if we were working with a Game Boy resolution, I just wouldn't do that. I would definitely have it increase the internal resolution. That's just too low. Oh, whoops. There we go. Perfect. Although that's a bit cluttered, so nah. Let's see if I can put it here instead. There we go. That ought to look a little nice. Now I'm gonna put some gems to guide the player along. Oh wait, this is too gradual for that to work. Oh, hello. As you can see, we've already started the beginning of a stage. It's going to be Carol exclusive, so we're designing that with just Carol in mind and nobody else. I feel like the poor kitty deserves more attention. As you can probably tell, in general, like, even though personally Carol is not like the main character I play as, I know how much people love her, and I think she's adorable, so that's why I've given her so much attention in Shang the Architect. Felt like she deserved it. So I prettied up her sprites a bit, gave her some buffs. Oh, bikeless only. Now you're just talking crazy. So, but yeah, I really wanted Carol to get a little love. I think the fact that she can have stages exclusive to herself will definitely help. Like, I want people to be able to explore what all you can really do with her. Oh, already got me. So, what next? You can put... This would be a good time to introduce the player to the bombs, even. Like, it's in a safe little environment where they can learn, oh hey, this hurts! So, yeah, we can... like a little ladder section here. Also, we do have a bite for Carol here. It's just out of view of the camera. Although if you're curious enough to pick up some gems... There we go. And... oh yeah, I didn't put a decorator on it. I think for future versions I want to make like a general animation object for stuff, so you don't need to place like a decorator specifically for each little thing. You can just like place a generic animator object and it will start animating things. Like say, you know, an animator for the gas can, animator for petal flowers, animator for shield flowers, little things like that. So, okay. Yeah, this is a safe little environment to test for players to see that, oh yeah, these things hurt. And I'm thinking the gimmicks I want to do will involve like a water height raising switch and a key card. Could probably make stages a little more interesting, like direction-wise, just by having key cards. And don't worry about his health, that doesn't carry over to the saving algorithm. So, get a drink real quick. Now, one thing I can do to trick players a little bit is like, when they first go in this direction, they can see the ladder up there, and if they choose to ignore it, they just go right past it. Then they come across a path that is blocked by the key cards, so now they have to go back and look at stuff they missed. These would be little things to be like clues. You have to think like a player the entire time, as you can see. So, oh, we got a little bug here. The the drawing offset for tiles when you pick them up for this particular tile isn't applying. Like when you select it from the menu, the correct aspect ratio and offset is chosen, but if you copy it, it doesn't. Need to log that one. So, oh yeah, I want to decorate this area slightly. Shouldn't be freezing. What's going on here? Still says I'm live. Do I need to restart the stream, y'all? Okay, yeah, it could have been on Twitch's end. As long as y'all can see what's going on, that's what matters. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, buffering happens sometimes. This is like a 60 frames per second stream, so... yeah. That's liable to happen. Oh yeah, I was going to get the left variant of this one. Oh, we're still in manual mode. Oops. Okay, there we go. Now let's have a transition point here. Oh wait, that's not a good spot. I need like some corner pieces. There we go. That's what we want. Whoops. There. Then we need to make this area dark. Oops. Don't worry, people, I want the undo button as badly as you do. It's just taking some time to figure out how to make that work. Yeah, that's also coming, but you have to remember my priority list is a mile long. My hours are wacky this week. Let's see, so... Alright. Okay. Okay, just randomly decided I didn't want to do that. One of these days, before 1.0 releases, I need to implement Stripe's suggestion where he suggested like dragging a tile to tile it in another direction. So, let's show off some of these corner pieces I made. That was a little tricky because figuring out the pattern involved here was not easy. So, okay. Now, yeah, I need to put the laser door down first. That way I can tell where to put the ceiling here. If you touch this thing, it hurts. Unless you have a metal shield, then you're fine. Otherwise, this thing hurts as bad as a spike. And ideally, you want to place it within the range of the keycard terminal so it can scan for this object and activate it. When the time's right, anyway. Giving speedrunners a bone is like, ironically, something that patronizes them at times. Like, when I was playing Donkey Kong Country 2 earlier today, I found a skip that the developers had intentionally placed within one of the stages themselves. So you can just skip the entire level by rolling underneath it. And it's like, ah, really? That's way too easy. And give me something that feels more rewarding than that. So, yeah. Just like, don't like make them feel like their work is cut out for them. You can still play this game with a gamepad too. It's just the mouse is ideally faster for this, obviously. But you can play with a gamepad. In fact, the PS4 controller is probably ideal. Like, the trackpad felt really good for the game. Aha! There we go. Can't make that too skinny. And because this is a Carol level, you don't to create a situation where she can controllers are just controllers the way I see it, so I'm not worried about that. Alright, so here we go. Now let's fill this in with tiles. Oh darn it, not again. Okay. Okay, the pattern dropper is not wanting to cooperate right now. Which is fine. Gonna fix that in time. Oh, that's fair. Like, as Dazzle said, as for speedrunner shortcuts, helps when stuff is left in still involves playing the game to make use of it rather than a raw knowledge check. That's absolutely fair. It's kind of like the Dragon Valley boss skip that everyone knows. Like, you need to know how to speedrun Lilac to properly take advantage of that. I don't know if I would do stuff like that with my levels for Shang Architect, but probably just because, like, well, it's very rewarding when it does work. Let's see, so... I don't know any specific skips for Carol that would make it hard to reach the metal shield if we were to place one in this level. Also, I better save it. And... oh yeah, let's place some more decorations here. Player orientation magic, as I call it. There we go. Tile layer 5. There we go. If you want it to look like it's not suspended in the air, most of the time anyway, like Freedom Planet, you know, doesn't really well, it does have anti-gravity, which is fine. Oh, I think I see what's happening here. The instance activation range is activating all objects after saving, so I'm probably not clearing the bright delay variable. That could be what's happening here. I mean, I should have cleared it, but I guess maybe there's an oversight in how that works. That's an easy fix, though. It's just one variable. So, there we go. And there we go. Yeah, even in fully stable software, it's always a good idea to oh yeah, now's a good time to place a key card for players to pick up. So, what do I do here? What do I want in this area? Well, for one, we could start off with maybe more platforms. Whoops. There we go. No, it's too short. Let's make it taller. You know, I hadn't thought about making it possible to put cards on moving platforms. That would be kind of funny. Okay. And players can't, like, cheat their way over there because, like, this is already blocked off by some item pickups. So they can't just, like, get on the bike, climb up here, then double jump their way towards the key. They still have to, like, jump over here normally. So, yeah, I'm gonna put a spike ball around here. How much of the grid does this respect? Enough to matter, anyway. Oh, okay, that could hurt a little bit. This will only hurt a little. So, and I wonder if edge detection works for slopes yet. No, it doesn't. Let's recall the enemy. I need to give them edge detectors for slopes too. That would be a neat option, but we don't have an object properties window yet, remember? So, one thing at a time. No, it's already mean enough that we have this thing here, so... Now let's get the key card out. Here we go, place that here. Okay, I'll try to at least slightly lead the player towards exploring this area. Like, hey, there's pretty little gems. Maybe you want to explore that. You know, something I never tested. Can I place these directly on the ladders without it causing problems? Oh, good. Very good. Now, granted, items have long since stopped checking the slope, the item tile layer, because like that was an optimization issue, and it created problems with ladders, specifically when you know it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we're gonna have to ignore the counter for now, because like, yeah, I didn't realize that the right delay has not been fixed, so whoops. I need to fix that. So, there we go. No, that doesn't look right. It's off-centered, so not worry about that. Yeah, that's because the instance activation range is not working correctly right now. Because I saved the game, the right delay variable is apparently set to 1 instead of 8 or 0. So, like, that means the game is going to activate every single instance in the room when the right delay is active. That way, the saving algorithm can correctly log every single object that's in the room, except for some exceptional objects that it discounts. That's something I need to fix, so I think for now I'll just like reset the game and go back to the editor, because we can. Resetting the game is very quick, so why not? Okay, Shang Lake. And we're back in. Nothing lost. See, like, this is a normal amount of gems. Like, we're not going above the counter. And the counter does take the zoom level into account, so like, what would be a normal count for this amount of objects within the view would not be normal for a zoomed out camera, because like, well, obviously you're going to have more instances within the activation range, so that needs to be taken into account. So, yeah. Now, okay, so yeah, there's a key card. Let's keep making this area a little interesting as we go along. No, in fact, let's have these around here. That way it's not too easy to go around this thing. And I also noticed that Carol is having a hard... I hit reset instead of number 2 on the numeric key. That's my fault, people, sorry. So, go back to Shang Lake. We didn't really lose anything, so it's not a big deal. I was just trying to set the player to Carol and lost track of where my fingers were on the keyboard. There we go. Anyway, you don't want to make it too easy to skip this area, and also I noticed that Carol was having a hard time getting up here because she doesn't normally have a double jump, so it's kind of hard. So what I can do to help Carol with that is probably place another platform around here somewhere. Or, let's see, what could I do? No, it's not a bad idea. I'll add a pendulum. Might be the most fun way to get up there. I wonder if this will work. It's probably a little obtuse, but it works. Ow! There we go. Now, like, gonna go ahead and save it, I guess. No, we'll wait about that. Now, oh, whoops. Go. The reason's unknown. It's cooperating now, so let's take advantage of it. Whoops. There we go. Yeah, it's definitely a dread factor there. And use another corner piece here. Probably going to transition back to wood tiles pretty soon. There we go. Whoops. Here we are. Well. There we are. Okay. Now I can encourage players to go find the key. So, what next put in here? Gems are always an obvious thing. There we go. Yeah, that's right. We haven't placed new checkpoints yet. I've gotten so lost in doing this that I forgot that. Place one here for now. Then another inside here. This might be the most intuitive spot for one. I don't know. Okay. Now we'll make like the open area here. I get very indecisive, as you can see. Oh, no, we don't want that. I hit shift by accident, so. Okay, that's 2 targets. I'll say it would be fair to place a couple of these around here. There we go. Well, the guard for the terminal is already the key card, and by extension, the spike balls. But we could still have like a little funny sentinel bot in the way, so no, it's too long. Let's have, okay, player's camera. It's like not going that far, so now I can put Turritus over here. Nah, it's too short for him. Let's make it a little longer. Then pick him back up. There we go. Although he's going to consistently miss every time, but I guess if the player wanted to bother him, they could. So yeah, we don't need the wall to be far out. There we go. Make it at least a little more interesting there. Although this ceiling is a bit suffocating now, so up here at least I need to extend it a bit. Make it stick up a little. There we go. There, now it's like a little bit more spacious to move around up there, and you can avoid getting hit by it if you want. You can jump away from the spike balls. Okay. Oh, I hit the save button. That activated every object in the room. I feel stupid, but oh well. I'll fix that after the stream. The game's already a lot more optimized than it was since the last stream, for instance. There were some funny bugs with instance activation that was causing stages with more objects to slow down a bit on lower-end computers. It was just an oversight in the code. It was easily fixed. As much work as I can get done. It's like... It's just really hard to manage game development and a full-time job at the same time, but it can be done. Just, you have to take into account all the variables that come with that. But it's probably still less stressful than a Kickstarter campaign. Like, being beholden to so many people is not something I want to worry about. So... Okay, now we need corner pieces. Here. Okay, What we need to do is put this here. This here. There. Oh, whoops. Here we go. How am I gonna fix that? I don't have a piece small enough for it. Well, better yet. There. No, that's not good enough. What can I do? Oh, I guess there's... Yeah, I'll use some corner pieces. Okay, here we go. And... let's see. Here we go. Oh, okay, there we go. There. Still have the same problem as up here though, so I guess we'll just use a cube. The wooden cube ought to do. Cube solves everything. Even in math. So, okay, there's one part of the puzzle solved. Yeah, that's right, I haven't used any springs yet. I ought to fix that. I need to see how standing on top of these things work. Oh, yeah, that's fine. So initially, we need send the player down. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to have these embedded into the wall a bit. I just wonder if the item tile sensors will work. Yeah, no. Well, I embedded it too far into the wall, that's why. Yeah, that works. This is why it's so helpful to be able to test things in real time. You can see what the engine will let you do and what it won't. Okay, I think that will be good enough. Then we can have section here starting. Okay, how well is that gonna work? Whoops. Well, if somebody doesn't want to play along with the direction of the springs, it'll definitely not work that way. Yeah, I can still launch players down. That's what I wanted. Then we can have through here. Yeah, I shouldn't make it impossible to backtrack if you need to, so let's see if you can. Yeah, you can. It's Carol, she can climb on walls and do cool stuff. Like that. Oh. There we go. And... yeah, this would be the perfect time for this sort of tile piece. It can be geometrically interesting. I just wonder if that's fun to do, though. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. Too skinny. What about... here we go. Now this would be the perfect point to put the bike if they wanted to like have a section just for it. So what I'm gonna do, like, go put that here, then the bike underneath it, which if Carol hits it just right, like the bike will automatically hit the checkpoint. Not like that. See? Like that. So if you're launching into it, yeah, that'll happen. So, oh, whoops. There we go. Okay, what else could I put in this room? Oh, I think I got an idea. Oh, whoops. Here we go. It's all about keeping it interesting. Oops. There we go. There. Should be tall enough that, the player does look up there with the camera. I'd like them to have more to look at than just a bunch of repetitive tiles. You want a stage to be as visually interesting to look at as it is to play, I think. Whoops. Let's get Carol off the bike for now. Put a decorator on it. There we go. Save the stage. And... what do I want next? Yeah, I think I want that kind of section. Let's do that. So... this is something I think we fixed recently, so let's try that real quick. Yeah, kind of fixed it. Now we're doing this specifically to stop the player, like, hey, you should take a look around the room and see what you can do. Because, like, if you just have them running the whole time, they could run past entire obstacles they should be going through, and as a result, they miss everything and don't know what's going on with the layout. So this is something even Sonic Mania does, where sometimes they will intentionally stop you just before a death pit so that you can see, like, oh, there's this lava here that could hurt me very badly, and also there are these other platforms I can interact with up ahead, and then you can press a switch right in front of the door and it lets you through, and you can safely proceed without having run straight into lava like a complete idiot. So I'm going to use that here to encourage the player to check out this carousel. So if they were already running like an idiot, they'll be like, oh, well, I guess I just got stopped here. Oh, what's this? You know? Now's a good time to have a couple of these and place floating enemies here. Well, thank you, Dazzle. Okay, so let's have some blade orbiters. Make it interesting. Oh yeah, it took me 3 years to finally add the sword sound effect to the blade orbiter. Can you believe that? And he's still moving twice as fast as normal. Oh, hello, Fladerby. There we go. Yeah, we can have this guy here. I think the blade orbiter would be more useful if he would have more time to hurt the player if he was along the sides. But for the first time the player encounters him, it'd be a good idea to just do it once first. That way the player has a chance to see what's going on. Oh, I need to place them higher. So put him higher up so he has more time to draw his swords and hurt the player. We're keeping him in a dummy position there so the player is safe, and they think they're safe. Okay, so he needs to be a little higher up. He needs a lot of time. I may also need to increase his scanning range so that he has a better time scanning for the player and hitting them in time. Because just scanning like 48 pixels beneath him is just, it's too immature. Like, he's basically never going to hit the player unless they're going down, but he'll never hit them while they're going up. That's not how it works in Freedom Planet, though. Like, the blades don't do any damage until they have a downward motion, which is realistic. You don't want things to hurt just because, oh, it's like everything's made of lava. That's not how Freedom Planet works. So, next up, Let's add some decoration tiles so the player can orient themselves as they're moving around the environment. But only a little because it's already very cluttered here. Like, very cluttered. You need to be careful. Okay. Realign that. Make it look nice. So, there we go. Now, let's look. Okay, what kind of decoration tiles should I have? Yeah, this would probably be the least cluttered thing I could put here. So, let's start with this. And I will center it around the blade orbiter first. Okay, that's his health bar. It perfectly fits right there, so I was confused at first. I'm glad you think so. Oh, let's see. Go to scene 4. No, that's... shouldn't go all the way down. We'll have something as a stopping point there. So, where should we have the second row of them? Probably, like, right here. There we go. And their stopping point should be like really high up. Want to give players a little room to breathe. In fact, you know, this would be a good spot to have a camera zoom out effect. Oh, that was funny. So, we'll go do a 50% camera zoom out effect here. Okay, I'm gonna test something. Okay, no. That's interesting. Half a second. I didn't know it worked like that in Freedom Planet. Okay, so at 50%, you can see quite a bit around you. I don't think we'll need that level of zoom out yet. So, let's be careful here. So, what do I want as a stopping point there? Oh yeah, I haven't been placing these things around here. I love Chinese lanterns. There we go. Now, get this other lantern out here. Okay. Yeah, that could be centered better, but I don't have a multi-select tool yet, so... Yeah, that's true. Yeah, let's not defy the laws of physics here. Or lampshade it like SpongeBob does. So, I want to go back and add some lanterns here too. So, Okay, yeah, that'd be a good way to help orient the player here, too. They can get a better grasp of their environment, and where they are in it. And I haven't really been placing scenery flags either. I should do that. Only gonna put one here though, because it's already quite cluttered. Don't want to make that worse. In fact, I could put it up here because, like, there's nothing else here. Why not? So, yeah, I think a lantern would look better up there. Yeah, that looks better. And okay. You know, I never looked up the Chinese characters involved to know what it says. But I do know that the Chinese characters I had put on the lanterns that I drew, like these, I think Scoodles helped me out with the Chinese translation, because, like, I don't know Chinese, just what Google Translate can give me. And it's like, some of these are words for create and play, basically. Like, that was going to be the theme of all the lanterns. I just don't remember which ones say play or welcome or things like that. Yeah, this would be a good spot to have some gems. It looks compositionally blank. There we go. I like having little patterns like that, it's fun. It would be very fun to put pickups here, because because it'd be very frustrating to get them, especially while there's enemies on the on these things. So, but I could place things like this here, so if the player is feeling a little dry on health, that they've got some help. And since I gave Carol like a gas can up here, she'll at least have an easier time with these platforms because she can double jump. So there is that. Now, I had a good opportunity to cap these placed here. I'm probably breaking the pseudo 3D effect of the tiles this way, but yeah, I am. That doesn't look right. So, oh, hello. Okay, so manual. Place this over there. Okay, this is what we got so far, Frog. Oh yeah, that's right. I added the bullfrag right there at that point because I wanted to reintroduce him in a more dangerous situation later. So how about we create a dangerous situation? So one way we could do that, let's see, here we go. I'll show you all very soon. Blue thing. Oh yeah, this is the keycard terminal. This is like the scanning range of the keycard itself. Yeah, so like there's the terminal, and when you put a key card in it, it activates the laser door. In editor mode though, it just confirms that it works. It doesn't let you through. Haven't found a way to reset the thing. Okay, so now, you know, this would be a good launching off point to have. Oh, whoops. There we go. Okay. Then we'll have a checkpoint right here. Alright, smack dab middle here. These two tiles. But also, like, again, want to keep things visually interesting, so we'll have like the sport column right here. Okay, yeah, the player's camera can go about that far, so I need to cover both sides of this. Okay. Okay, I'll have this here. Also, I'm not sure how to answer your question. It's, like, would it be possible to elaborate a bit? Also, I forgot. I don't think that's a correct answer either. Oh, okay, that's not how any of this works. Like, basically, Game Maker Studio does things a bit differently now. Like, ever since Studio 1.0, they've been doing things called texture pages, which is like, basically it sends a copy of a sprite sheet to the GPU, and it holds on to that, like, as a texture that the GPU keeps a copy of, and all of the coordinates for every single sprite on that sheet are provided to the CPU part. As far as I understand it, I could be a little wrong, but the point is now, like, all of your game's assets can fit onto a single texture, and then it's sent to the video card. So, like, all of Shang Architect's assets fit cleanly into like a 4K texture page. So there's no really need to load or stream anything, given the small scope of the game. Now, if it were like Freedom Planet 2's scope, where tiles and sprites are much larger, then I would start to run into problems, and I would need multiple texture pages to manage everything, and that's where things can get a little tricky, because texture pages, like, once you have so many sprites, you need to be swapping out multiple texture pages at once. So, yeah, that And the more times you swap the texture page out the GPU, like changing the texture page the GPU has for that frame with a different one, and you keep doing that per frame depending on how many sprites you uploaded, that's where you start to run into problems with performance anyway. So I tried to limit Shang Architect's assets to one texture page so there's no hiccups or slowdowns as a result of having more texture pages. Oh, that's interesting, Epps. Epps said that's how most game engines do textures. Models and surfaces get texture coordinates assigned to their vertices, which point to a location on a texture loaded into VRAM. That is a much better way of putting it than I can. I'm just an artist who can scream at code sometimes and get results. I don't fully understand everything that's going on. There we go. And I could at least put an enemy here, but no, it's never been a problem because, like, Freedom Planet 1, despite the fact that it has so many sprites, they're all very small. So, like, each character has, like, 180 to 300 action frames. And all of that barely takes up a tenth of the texture page. It's like, I think Carol has, like, nearly 200 action frames, Lilac has about that many, and Mila has like close to 200 sprites herself. And that's just like nothing in terms of texture page usage. In fact, like the maximum size that one texture page could be is like I think it's 8,000 by 8,000, and we're nowhere near that point yet. So as long as I don't have like 12 different tile sets, then we're not going to run into problems with having to switch them out constantly. Also, I ought to have a stopping point here somewhere. Carol doesn't need to go up that high. Let's add an optional section, which you could... Yeah, let's do that while I talk. But anyway, yeah, like... as long as the game doesn't have too many tile sets or game styles, we're not going to run into that issue. So for now, we're barely using a 4K texture page. Now granted, if I were working with the Android platform, we would start to run into problems because, like, as far as I understand it based on research that I did, that like if you sent, like, say a 10K texture to some older Android phones, like, it would brick them. So yeah, you can't send very large texture pages to phones, especially older ones. So you have to, like, be very prudish about the size of the texture page, but I don't plan on porting the game to mobile, so that's not going to present an issue. Like, it would just take too many months of extra work to get it to deal with the touchscreen, finding an intuitive way to make the game control in player mode with a touchscreen, and then yeah, there's also the issue that, like, you know, bootlegs could arise out of that. People could, like, decompile the Android package and start injecting ads into the game, and then uploading their own builds to the Google Play Store and taking advantage of children wanting Freedom Planet on the go. And yeah, there's a lot of reasons I do not want to make a mobile port of Shang the Architect. It's a lot of extra work and could cause a lot of problems for Galaxy Trail in the long run. It's not worth it. It's not worth that risk. Also, now would be a good time for a gimmick shield. So No, it's not out of scope. It's doable with GameMaker because they do have like mobile platform exporters. It's just like a whole other type of headache of its own to make a mobile port. That's all. It can be done, but because this is a fan game, I'm afraid to. For a lot of reasons. And even Strife, you know, he wanted to port Freedom Planet to Android himself, but like, how do you get that to work? Because like, yes, Freedom Planet is not like Donkey Kong Country where you have to hold a run button the whole time, which isn't bad with a physical controller with real buttons you can touch, but on a touch screen, realistically, you can only interact with one button at a time with your hand, because trying to hold one touch button and interacting with another causes a lot of problems. It's why, like, Shantae Risky's Revenge, I think, has a like a toggle for running and walking, because on iOS where it was ported, like, you just wouldn't be able to hold run and jump around at the same time. In Freedom Planet, you know, there's no dedicated buttons to hold, but a lot of attacks have more complex inputs than just one button, so you probably have to have a lot of macro, buttons that people can use. Like, I tried to figure out how to come up with an intuitive touchscreen interface for Freedom Planet 1, and I don't think I came up with one that was any good. Oh, yeah, that's dumb. Let's not do that. But anyway. Yeah, fighting the last phase of Brevin in Freedom Planet 1 on a touchscreen would... Even if you could do it, it'd be physically stressful. So, yeah, I think that's one reason why Stripe just discounted the idea of an Android port Freedom Planet, because, like, how do you make the game experience on par with what people with physical controllers can play? You can't. It's just... the inputs are just too complex for mobile. You would have had to design the ground up, from the ground up, to work well on mobile. And that's something I do want to consider with my original projects, is making the input system simple enough that that doesn't present an issue. Yeah, you could do that, but, you know, there are plenty of people who just don't keep a gamepad handy with them for their phone, and in my case it was always a pain in the neck because I had to use an OTG cable and a wired controller to use a controller on mobile, which isn't really good for spur of the moment gameplay, because, like, you know, say you're in the doctor's office and you're, you know, playing Super Nintendo game on your phone with the real Super Nintendo controller, and you get called in, it'll probably take you 2 minutes to get everything put away before you can get up. And that's not very socially acceptable. So, like, yeah, it's very hard to just be like, no, you need a controller. I just couldn't do that to people, because, like, I've tried to play games on Android, and in the end I just stick to touchscreen controls wherever I can help it. Yeah, we really need more buttons on phones again. That, I agree with that. And I think it's one reason why Nintendo Switch is so popular with indies, is like, you know, you can port your game to a mobile platform that has more power than previous Nintendo platforms ever had. And, you know, it has buttons. Imagine that. You don't have to compromise your game's experience at all, because, like, yeah, it's It's built for that. It's not an issue. Well, Apple is kind of a trendsetter, and they were the ones that introduced the idea of a phone with no buttons. They wanted beautiful simplicity, which isn't a bad thing, but it did set a trend. Yeah, manufacturing cost is a fair assumption as well, yeah. Yeah, I think for the longest time, like, BlueBerry phones still had physical buttons, but those eventually went out of style as well. They don't make those anymore. Like, especially because, like, BlueBerry was very adamant about having their own operating system instead of just using Android or iOS, and nobody wanted to make anything for a completely new ecosystem like that because, well, iOS and Android already existed. The race for mobile operating systems has already been won. Even Microsoft had to acknowledge that, so I think in the end BlueBerry did eventually start using the Android OS, but it was too late. Way too late. So, okay, what else am I doing up here? Oh yeah, it'd be a good idea to have a floating platform underneath that ladder, because most players aren't going to be able to make it otherwise. You can encourage them to land that. Let's see, here we go. Yeah, it'd be a good opportunity to place a few of these here as well. Let's see if a decorator object will work here. There. And putting a lot of effort into an area that's purely optional. Let's see. Let's wrap it up there. Those corner pieces. Yeah, tangent time's over now, but yeah, I had considered an Android port of Shang Architect, and Strive considered Android for Freedom Planet 1, and I think both he and I, like, would be of a similar mindset when it came to mobile ports. Like, yeah, just, you could do it, but why? It would compromise the experience far too much. Let's see, so here we go. Alright, let's do that. And I think I ought to have the camera boundary stop there so I don't have to place as many of these tiles. And, well, let's see, would I want to go farther than that? Yeah, that's the problem. Oh yeah, I did want to have a vertical section, so let's not do that. That ought to do it. Let's see how far up the camera can look from here. Yeah, you would never notice that there's nothing up there. That's what we need. So now, let's have that water switch gimmick. Yeah, I'm improvising this entire layout. I didn't plan it out. Like, I felt like the level editor is easy enough to use that you don't need to plan out that far ahead. You can just kind of try stuff out and see if it works. That's a big part of things, because like Freedom Planet and Sonic, they're both so analog in motion that you can't perfectly predict all of what's going to happen when you do bring your layout from the paper to the editor. Like, there's things that you would have not expected will happen. So it's just easier to like prototype the level as you're making it in the editor. Just rough out the layout, see if it works, and keep going. Because, yeah, unless you have a really good grasp of trigonometry, you're not going to know exactly where all the characters are going to land, and etc, etc. So, especially when slopes are involved. Well, thank you. Alright, so what's next? Yeah, I wanted a vertical section. Let's do that. So, yeah, and another thing is, like, if you make levels for long enough, like, it's less scary to just make one on the fly. It's not very hard. Before, I would have been nervous, but the more I slap stuff together for Shang Architect as I test it, you get over that initial nervousness of like, what kind of level am I going to make? What am I going to do? Oh no, this is scary. I don't know what I'm doing. All that goes away. Practice. Yeah, the tools you're given, it's not very hard, no. So, oh yeah, we're still in manual mode, so. There we go. There we have it. That way you can't just like skip ahead and miss everything I put down. Yeah, we're gonna make this section vertical, so let's delete these. Deleting stuff has been a lot easier since Blast suggested that I let holding right click or left click just place or delete tiles. Instead of like before, you had to click for every single tile you wanted to delete, and that is kind of frustrating. It's very annoying. Let's see. I can't believe it's been 2 hours already. My god. You can spend a long time just making a very short stretch of level, as you can see. Yeah, I can delete those for now. Oh, there we go. And before I place any more, I need to see how high up it'll go in the first place. There we go. That's right, I hadn't even done a loop yet. I probably could before. Yep, 10 hours would be pretty typical for a big enough level. It really would. And that's considering how much easier the editor makes placement of things compared to the using the room editor for GameMaker. The engine with all of its layering is so convoluted, it's a real pain to use GameMaker's room editor to make levels directly. The editor just kind of streamlines a lot of BS that I wish I hadn't created in the first place. The engine is just a little frustratingly convoluted for what it is. But we're making it work. We can do refactoring later. I don't know the first thing about C++. I could not help them with that. Like, the thing is, their room editor is pretty alright for making a traditional 2D platformer now. Like, GameMaker Studio 2 comes with a really good room editor now, but if you're making anything that's remotely Sonic related, it's really slow and unintuitive, so that's why Shang the Architect has an in-game editor like this. Okay, so yeah, let's do some vertical moving platforms. So we need a reverse course tile. Yeah, we can have it stop there. Now, ideally, you don't want platforms to go too high or too far away, because, like, then it becomes a waiting game. Like, it takes the players just standing there waiting for the resolution, and instead of like playing the game. So don't leave them sitting on a platform for too long. Oh, there it is. Place this on here. There we go. Now if we want to be an extra jerk, you can do this. There we go. Now that is playing with gasoline. In fact, let's adjust the tile. That way it's like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. You get back here. There we go. His planet needed him. I still love that Miiverse post of Knuckles telling Carol that his planet needs him, and she's like, "This isn't even your planet." No, it was Knuckles. Because of course it was. Okay, we are in auto mode. That should... No, he can't. He can't break the checkpoint. Uh-oh. There we go. thing is, like with most interactions enemies can have with anything, like they would like I'd have to program any interactions they have with objects on purpose. So if I didn't program them to break stuff, they're not going to. Oh, good lord. There we have it. I need to drink something real quick. Ah. There we go. Now, obviously, I'm not going to make that a death pit, so let's not be total jerks here. I'm going to make it a spike pit, which is probably even worse, but at least you can dodge at spikes. You can't dodge a death pit. Well, not normally, but you know. So, whoops. There we go. Oh yeah, I hadn't even been placing those yet. Now the one-up cheapies need a little love too. There we go. Oh. Wrong key. There we go. Oh, well. That exposed, here we go. Alright, that looks much better. And of course we need a way out, because Carol's jumping doesn't really allow her to get out of there that easily. Like, yeah, she can, but most players are not going to have the skill to do that. So we need a way out. This would be the last approach, but what can I do? How about our... No, that's mean too, because like if the player broke it on the way down, they wouldn't be able to get through. Oh, that moving platform could work, but this is quite the conundrum. So, well, there's an idea. Just place him down here, because you can stand on him. Well, no. Oh, here we go. Yeah, but that does negate the point of the trap, so... Oh, this is terrible. Well, yeah. Okay, well, not all ideas need to be pursued. If it's not working, it's not working. So... it's just all you can do. could have a horizontal moving platform in there that comes in and out, but that would probably not be very expected. It'd just be like, oh, okay, that's a thing that can happen. Well, nah, that's too much backtracking. You know what? I got an idea. Just like make this a side path, which is like a typical thing that old Sonic games do. Like instead of punishing the player this hard, they'll just like they make lower paths a punishment instead of a death pit. And that's typically how most people prefer it. So, how tall is that? Just tall enough. If Gong was a playable character, he wouldn't fit through there. He would just have to die in here, the fatty. Oh, there we go. It's not a bad idea. Oh, There we go. Okay, that could work. So now, let's allow the side path to go back up the normal way. Oh yeah, we have to select a tile again. So... oh, whoops. There we have it. And... I haven't placed an ordinary spring in the level yet, so this seems appropriate. So like if somebody's struggling with that, they can just get back up here. No nonsense. If that's the case, then why need this here at all? Yeah, let's go with that. So... oh, whoops. There we have it. Okay, that's a little side path they could get distracted by. And I'll put a couple of gem flowers and I could put a petal flower here. That'd be much more effective. So if the bullfrog and the spikes did a lot of damage, they'll be just fine. Oh, that's just mean. I couldn't add another spike pit. There. It's centered out a bit. Okay. add some ordinary gems. There. I think that ought to be fine. So now let's get some ladders and water switches out. So there we go. Man, it would suck to be you if you forgot to kill Bullfrag first. Oh, whoops. Bullfrag doesn't have gravity of his own yet, so that's why that happened. And let's see. So yeah, I think I ought to like take the stage in a like a different direction, like having it go left above this area. Because I just realized if I did a water gimmick, then the water level would only come up to the player's level, not go above them. So it's not how that works yet. So. Oh yeah, there's already a checkpoint there, so we don't need one here. Okay, let's try to have some interesting platforming. A vertical section. I'll have to do this with springs and moving platforms. Probably somewhat similar to that vertical tunnel in Aqua Tunnel that Mila goes through. Probably somewhat similar to that. Let's see. So get flat. Well, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense either. So there we go. That's... a drowning jingle would be pretty annoying to manage. For let's see. And I feel like Freedom Planet has, like, a suitably stressful enough way to let the player know, hey, you're drowning, you might want to get some water. I mean, some air. Oh my god, what's wrong with me today? Oh wait, that's gonna block the player's path. No, let's not do that. Yeah, it's one thing I can do is like limit the camera's direction up here. So, yeah, there we go. Yeah, that way we can have a vertical section that's a bit more limited in that sense. The player won't be able to walk up there, obviously. It'll just limit them from going beyond that point. That's all it does. Yeah, it broke a loop, but that's not what I'm going for here. So I'm working with that possibility in mind. Let's get a good old horizontal moving platform for the picture. Let's get a big one. So okay, that's too low. Like they're obviously going to be able to jump up there. Yeah, the thought did hit me. I wonder if Carol's ability to wall climb would still work. The camera doing this. I'm gonna give that a try. Like, I'll place this stuff here and then try her out in play mode and see if see what happens. I still don't know either, Vlad. It's all a mystery. Okay. So restart the game engine. Shang Lake. We did have Lilac selected as a playable character, but obviously only Carol spawned, because, yeah. See, I was trying to show off the fact that his gem pattern works now, and then this happens. Oh my god. Collision physics issues are so annoying. We'll get them worked out, people. That's what we're trying to do right now. Okay, let's restart it so we can, like, get a better assessment of how long the level really is. Oh, the base tile is not moving with Bullfrag, so it's up there instead of down there where he is. Oh my god. See? We still got problems to work out here, people. Okay. I think his hurt box is still up there too. Let's check. Yeah, I think it is. No, his hurt box is following him. So that's good. Oh, I was gotta be careful here. Yeah, See, that breaks. Can't go up there. Okay. Now that was 2.5 hours of work for about half a minute of gameplay. That's how long it takes to make levels. So... all of this is just half a minute of gameplay. Yeah, I know you could probably beat it in like 18 seconds, but we're just talking about casual time measurements. At least for now. So the camera lock will be placed here instead. Let's try that again. Just to see if it works in play mode. Instantly exploded. Oh! The bike has been so difficult to sort out. Okay. He wasn't even connected to it. See how that works. Yep, that works now. Just can't have it too close. So. Yeah, I think that's it. Like, it's still a bit tricky to sort out what's going on with the enemies when I attach them to moving platforms. But we're getting there. And it will make level making more interesting for people, because they can do silly things like that. Super Mario Maker had the enemy stacking meme, and we have the moving platform meme, I think. Well, I appreciate that, Dazzle. Alright, so... okay. Yeah. Drink some tea real quick. Oh, y'all, look at this. There. Let's get back to making the level. So... what do I want to happen here? This is where my understanding of platforming level starts to fall apart, because I can do this horizontal stuff okay, but making vertical platforming sections is very, it sucks. It's a lack of practice, probably. I would probably stop around 6:30, because I do need to get busy with fixing all of the problems that y'all saw on the stream. Yeah, now would be a good time for some grass. Give Meal players a little bone to play with. So, have a little walled in section just for the dirt. So, where do we start here? Is that too low? I think it is. Okay. Now let's use some springs that were never available in the original Freedom Planet. Downwards diagonal springs were just not present because the game just never needed them, that's all. Like, Strive felt like the downward springs did the job pretty well. Like, you could just place a few of these, and it will... Oh no! Okay, never mind. I thought we had problems, but yeah. So, yeah. You don't need downwards vertical springs a lot of times, and you can just do that. It's more effective and the player is more likely to execute this correctly. Alright, so... But in Shang the Architect we decided, yeah, it'd be cool to have these. It'd just be nice. Alice Dance proposed that players would wonder where the heck they are and why they're not in the engine. Like, how could you miss something so obvious, Silly? What's wrong with you? And it's like, well, I did a lot of research. The game doesn't have them, so I didn't put them in. And that would just... Explaining that to every single person that plays the game is just not worth the amount of... It saves a lot more time just having them in there in the first place. Ironically, it saves more time to implement something than deal with all the people who will ask the same question over and over again hundreds of times without ceasing. And you just can't be a huge dick like, oh, you should have did your research about this game before you started asking questions about it, like, which is a bit contradictory because that's why people are asking questions. They don't know where to find the answers, and sometimes they don't know what question to ask to find the answer, so just being a jerk to people just because is not how I operate, so yeah. Yeah, you argued in Alice Dance, you argued in favor of springs, those downward diagonal springs, because exactly what I was talking about. People would just wonder where they are. So, okay, what could I put here? Oh yeah, that's right, I was gonna have a dirt box, so... Not gonna make it very tall though, just got that tall and filled with dirt. Oh, whoops. I'm supposed to put grass here, silly. Let's see, what about... yeah. So, about... yeah, let's pretty it up here. Like, yeah, I'm starting to get a little flat with decorations here. That's not very good. Oh, it's too cluttered. So, That's too close. Have the grid down. There we go. Now it's consistent. So... so... yeah, let's have a little house here. I think it would be fun. So... oh, we're still in automatic mode, that's why. Okay, we'll take advantage of that. Let's do that. And put a roof over it. Roof's a lot bigger than I remembered. So... oh, whoops. Yeah, I think, here we go. Now, all of these are on a scenery layer, so the player won't interact with it. Sorry about that. Oh. Okay, there. And... This would also be a good point to add a target. Alright, so... Nah, that's needlessly convoluted. Oh, what if... Is it able to grab it yet? Oh yeah, I haven't set up the bullfrag to be picked up by the carousel and pinwheel platforms yet. I think the DNA cannon can be, though. See? It is just as silly as it looks. But we're not going to be that mean, so... Have I... Yeah, I haven't set up any enemies for that yet, besides the DNA cannon. So I have to nix that idea for now. But I can do something stupid. So, like... Beauty platform... Modifier here. Needs to be lower, so... There we go. I want it to go kind of into the ground slightly. And what if... Yeah, the Ghetto Blaster isn't quite ready for that yet. So... this might be funny. We'll have to see how it works in practice. Oh! There we go. Yeah, no. He's not hurting anybody. But he's cute there, so let's just not worry about it too much. But what if we gave the player a reason to stop? So it could be hit. So, what if we added some reasons to slow down? Ah, here we go. Little crate maze, which Carol can obviously break right through, but it's enough to slow her down. That's too patchy. Let's make it like that. The question is, can Carol like still land on it correctly? Yeah. Okay, it's too far in. We'll just make it 3 blocks thick. So the player can have a nice, satisfying break through the boxes here. Uh-oh. Just kind of wanted to send her a little bit more. There we have it. Let's go ahead and save what we got. And there. Now Carol has to slow down. And then she'll run into that. I need to be more carefully considerate of what I'm even doing in here. So, yeah, I need to give all of the enemies their own gravity when they're attached to these platforms. So, what next? I could add another shield. Well, even in Freedom Planet they added certain shields in some places because they could, so we'll try that here too. But it doesn't really grant us any immunity, so... Oh. So... Okay, now let's put a decorator over it. There we go. Oh, of course, there's a patch in it. You know, honestly, given the scope of the stream, I might need to make that house there the end point. Because, like, this, like, it would probably take me another couple of hours to finish this stage. So, we'll make that the goal point. Another thing I added was, like, hitting the camera boundaries will also break them. So. That's not a bad idea. Could put an earth shield there, but there's no point in putting any shield there, right? Because, like, the stage is over, so. So, what could we put there instead to finish off the stage? Might need to find a spot to hide at least one of these little babies. Oh, here we go. That's incredibly precise. So I kind of went off the grid with that one. So, given that the scope of this stage has changed, I can make the top camera boundary up here. Let's start decorating, finishing it up. There we go. Let's see, happy trees. Ah, that's too thick. Oh, well, I forgot these were on the same layer, so let's fix that. Tree itself ought to be like right there. There we go. Ah, never mind. Don't need to flip it. There we go. Let's grab that tree. Put this over here. Yeah, I don't know why I've been putting trees on top of the houses. I just love trees. Now, let's get... Oh, whoops. So, now let's place some gems around here. Yeah, that counter's going off because the activation region's acting up again. Yeah, I need to get rid of the bronze targets, because, like, it was originally to help distinguish targets that respawn from targets that don't, but things have changed, so it's no longer necessary. Patterns here, and so, right, I think I got enough stuff there, so let's figure out what to do with this empty corner that's not doing anything. I could just fill it with more crates. So it's just like, you know, as having a little bit of purpose. You can use it for platforming or just destroy it all. Doesn't matter. So. Can Carol see? Yeah, she can see the holes in that. So let's make it thicker than 3 tiles. Yeah, this is somewhat painful. There we go. Okay, that should be nice and clean now. Yeah, you can't see beyond it. That's what we need. And, okay. Now. This won't be a very long stage, but it's demonstrative enough, I think. So. Also, you can zoom out pretty far. And yeah, I could, probably. Let's make sure I saved it. Because I'm paranoid. And try it out. So, Shang Lake. Then we'll try Deckard's new Shangmu Avenue and end the stream on that note. See what this is like. Oh. I'm trying it without the bike in particular because, like, it's very easy to think a stage is pretty workable until you realize Carol doesn't have her double jump all the time, so you have to see what it's like without the double jump. Yeah, there's the shiny new version of Carol's one-up chibi as well. quite an explosion. Oh, well, Carol can just bypass that entirely. Okay. It's a problem with the springs, don't worry. Something is wrong with that. Yeah. Okay. Isn't that funny? Like, the object is captured by the platform, but he's, doesn't have code for detecting floor-over-floor platforms, so he thinks he's falling infinitely. Yeah. More reasons why we're not at 1.0 yet. Like, Carol can't even wall climb on these things yet. Like, code-wise it should be pretty easy to fix that, but yeah. And, alright. Now let's see what Shang Avenue is about. Oh boy. Uh-oh. Oh, I see. It's a non-linear platformer stage. Oh. No, it doesn't continue playing. Like, it doesn't loop forever, rather. It stops after a while. It's just it didn't stop until nearly the end of the transition. Oh boy, I hear our old friend. Oh, well. There's quite a bit going on here. Oh, I see now. This is very non-linear, I like that. Got multiple directions to go in, it all loops back together. Oh, I see what you did up there. Of course you guard the invincibility flower with a... Oh, alright. I like that. Yeah, that's to make sound management easier, and also to avoid borrowing more music from Freedom Planet. You just have a timer instead. Yeah. Like, I always worry about music playback breaking based on lots of different contexts, so it's much easier if, oh my god, if we just don't have music changing at all. Now to find that last target I'm missing. I clearly missing something in the beginning. Oh, there it is. Oh, I need to see if that works. I'm very curious. Not yet. Something I need to fix. There we go. Alright. Okay. Oh, that was a pretty good stage deckard, I would say. So, yeah. Lower Shangmu, that was the stage I was working on the previous stream. There that is. Yeah. more physics problems I still have to sort out. Alright, so okay, I think that ought to conclude today's stream. The suffering box. Go. Let's see if I can get that stage to run now. Okay, restart the game to get instance activation to work again. There we go. Now let's see if it works on stream. Yep, now that I've fixed instance activation, the stage is playable now. Oh, okay. Good lord. Okay. Oh, hello. Okay, oh. Oh my god. Oh my god. I am not playing carefully enough. Oh my god. Yeah, they do a lot. Let's play a bit more carefully. Oh. Oh, whoa. Oh. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. And you place the checkpoints over. Oh my god. Oh, oh my god. Oh, I ran out of lives, wouldn't you know it? That truly is suffering. Like, you perfectly placed everything in such a way that everything's gonna hurt you. Okay. Okay, at least I tried that stage. So, okay, I think that ought to conclude today's stream now. We spent about 3 hours making a linear platformer level and tested it without anything breaking, and also tried out 2 of Deckard's stages. He's been contributing a lot of maps lately, and let me think. Oh, and thank you all for coming. Yeah, so yeah, that concludes today's stream. I'm very glad y'all came, and I'm gonna get back to work on the game now. See you later.